Okay, so this is actually going to be a fairly quick video, but I just want to talk about the crit resistance values of both skills and guns on every hard mode boss presently available. We already discussed some of this in my Haley build video, but even if you watch that, just hang tight as there is one notion I need to correct while I rehash the rest of the info for potentially newer viewers. In the Haley video, we discussed the concept of crit resistances, and the TLDR is basically that it is impossible to achieve 100% crit rate ever on any enemy in the entire game, and to show this we took Smithereens, which has a unique effect where if all pellets hit their target, their base crit rate is replaced with 100% instead of 1%. We shot a level 1 Lab Vulgus 1,000 times and saw a crit rate of 95%, so even level 1 enemies have a roughly 5% crit resistance. And if level 1 enemies have 5%, then that means everything in the game probably has that much or more. At the same time, we showed a few other examples on the Lab Vulgus in order to prove that you can't reach 100% by overcapped crit rate in spite of crit resist, and we also showed that crit resist isn't additive to your crit rate, meaning that if you have 50% crit rate and 5% crit resist on your target, it didn't factor in as 50% minus 5% to come out to 45%. All the data shown in that video is correct. You can't overcap crit rate, the resist factor isn't additive either. However, I did take the wrong conclusion from the data, and I was missing one data point that would have let me see it. And that is simply that crit resist doesn't function as a ceiling as I thought it might. It works multiplicatively, and had I just tested one more Devourer test with a 75% crit rate instead of 100 or 10%, which is the values that I ended up testing with at the time, that would have been visible. So to clarify, crit resist is not a ceiling, as we had prior discussed. You would generally calculate your crit rate as the capped crit rate of 100% if you went over, or less than that, and then whatever your crit rate is after being capped, it is multiplied by 1 minus the resist, converted to a decimal. So if you have a 25% resist, that would mean 1 minus 0.25, and then multiplied by whatever your crit rate is. For people who watch the Haley video, it quite literally changes nothing on any of the math we discuss between the skill damage or weapon options. It only means that you have 2 flex module slots instead of 3, but that's it. With that out of the way though, let's talk about bosses. To get these values on gun crit resist, I just did the Smithereens test on every single boss, either by myself or with others if more people were required in order to start the fight. For skill crits, I ran a Haley overcapped on crit just to ensure I was at 100%, and then only used her first ability whenever it came off cooldown. For some of the bosses, the people I ran with had issues in their capture methods, so only about 2 of us actually had recorded data, but that's still going to result in several hundred instances of damage, which we will talk about later. First up is Executioner. On the skill crit side, between 558 skill hits, we saw 417 crit with 74.7 crit rate, giving us an estimated skill crit resist of around 25%. On the gun side, with 1000 hits, we saw 737 crit, 73.7 crit rate, giving us an estimated 27 to 28% weapon crit resist. Dead Bride saw 543 out of 666 total hits crit at an 81% rate on the skill side, and given the other bosses to come, we're just going to estimate that the resist is around 20%. On the gun side, we saw 794 of 1000 at a 79.4% rate, again giving us a 20% estimated resist factor. Everyone's favorite pushover, Devourer, saw 528 of an even 700 skill crits at a 75.4% rate, and on the gun side, 730 of 1000, both sides giving an estimated resist of 25%. On to Pyromaniac, we saw 430 of 576 skill crits at a 74.65% rate and an estimated 25% resist, whereas on the gun side, we saw 799 of 1000 at a 79% rate with an estimated 20% resist. Swampwalker showed 420 of 522 skill crits at an 80% rate, with guns showing 798, both giving an estimated resist value of 20%. Moving on to the group bosses though, a lot of people are probably going to ask if more people are in your party, does it scale the crit resist any higher? And while I didn't actually test that out myself, because I frankly don't care, given the values we're about to show, I really doubt that is the case. I would imagine all bosses have the exact same crit resist no matter how many people are in your team. Because Obstructer showed 492 of 603 skill crits at an 81% rate and an estimated resist value of 20%, and Gun showed 225 of 290 at a 77% rate with an estimated 25% resist value. I had far less data on this boss in particular, as when we were testing it out, my internet died, and I just told everyone to go do other stuff. And once my net was back later, I frankly don't care enough about Obstructer to get more data on him, so 290 total hits is enough. And others can refine that value if they truly want to. Frostwalker showed us 717 of 900 skill crits at a 79.66% rate, and Gun showed us 342 of 430 at a 79.53% rate, both giving an estimated resist value of 20%. Molten surprised me because I thought Molten was at least much worse, but in the end, Molten showed us 560 of 711 skill crits at a 78.76% rate with an estimated resist of 20%, with Guns showing 379 of 520 at a 72.88%, both giving giving an estimated resist value of around 27%. As mentioned before, when I did this with several groups, there were recording errors, so we missed out on several hundred instances of damage, but arguably what we have already provided is more than enough to show the spread across bosses. Lastly, Gluttony is one we did not test because someone else already has, and supposedly Gluttony changes the game and runs an estimated resist value of 80 and 50% for skills and guns respectively, the person responsible for which is Surreal. He has also done testing on the Analysis Master module, which a lot of people had questions about, so if you do want to know more about Gluttony or Analysis Master, head on over and check him out. And in particular, if you've watched up to this point in the video and don't go and subscribe to him, you're a bitch. Hope you guys can find this useful. Just wanted to correct the aspect I got wrong about resist before while also presenting something new, and since we didn't have a full spread on all the bosses yet, I figured it'd be good to nail down. Big thank you to all the following for helping me get these values, even at some pretty late hours in the night and early morning. Error, Red Room, Ethan Pages Bay, 8SKO, Penitence, Mar, and then TFD Maths on Twitter. They in particular have a Twitter account where they show weapon builds, so if you are interested in gun-specific builds while you wait for me to get through all the Descendants, they've got some good stuff. And then a random tidbit before I end the video. I did test different weapon types on Devourer, using Smithereens, then an overcapped Secret Garden, and then Wave of Light, to check 3 different types just to see if weapon ammo types played a part in resistances, and I saw 0 significant difference between the 3 types. Some people have also speculated it could be possible for different element types or attribute types to have varying resist values, and that is a 7th circle of hell that I'm not willing to step into in order to test. Fuck that. I will let someone else do that one. I know it might be rich coming from me after having just done all this shit, but that is indeed where I draw the line.